also get a go back
that
to
is
the
something
boots that
I'm
are
not
like
looking forward
in
to
the back
eventually.
face the sun. They can heat up really quick because they're small and the window's right there.
Okay,
So then they will
do you have any like
make
food
our room
cravings that you're
warm.
just like
They get hotter, so then we get so it's so great. The balance, we try.
Yeah. Spring sweaters.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I have a winter scarf that I have that I wear around. Sometimes you'll catch me wearing it around. It's like this big,
constantly like, why do you do this?
great huge scarf, and sometimes it just becomes part of my outfit for the day. And I feel like there's so many pictures of it.
Yeah. Okay.
You
too. Yeah, we'll definitely catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We worked so hard. I was like, I can't do this. I can't have her walk. I had to be on the floor. No. So I was like, in pictures, I was like, yeah, that wasn't exactly the outfit I was going for, but whatever.
So funny.
Yeah. No, that's exciting. I know. Yeah. If you cut in from outside when it's 100 degrees, it'll feel good.
Yeah, it's like, oh, great. Oh, God, exactly.
I've been like hiding out today, so.
Oh yeah.
Shaking out all like
I feel it.
but you they started me on
Exactly.
I've been trying all about no. I'm working on like longer term stories.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, more like, no, she's, yeah. Oh,
This is what you want. Here's the tour. You can walk through. I just like so and she was like, yeah, exactly. Like the negotiation stuff, yeah. That's what I say, like
Yeah, well, they did. We had one night storm, like, kicked us out of the restaurant for 10 minutes.
Cause I can't tell if I'm gonna
Because it was,
get,
it was, it was, no, it was glass. Like, we're in a brewery, and it was complete glass. There was this movie theater right in, like, where we were at, there was a brewery, and we just went there and sat there. Yeah, so it was only like 10, 15 minutes, like, ordered 2 beers from the movie theater, it was cool. And then as soon as I sat down through like 3 sips, they were like, okay, we're good. Like, they're like, you can bring this in, come on. Like, people at the brewery. No, no, she's totally fine. No, she's totally cool.
either this one,
11
or
cents.
you.
11 cents. Yeah, 11 cents a little while now.
Oh, yeah.
You just got, that's what I told her. That's what I told her. I was like, you just gotta, like, it's acquired taste. You just gotta, like,
Yeah.
I was like, you just gotta,
We all are, but.
yes, but it's still, it's tough. Yeah. I mean, we did 10 days towards the end. Me and her had fun a lot. It's just like, are you okay? You know, just don't let the noise. Just do your part. No, Alexis is, no, she was great. She was great. Yeah, everything's just fine. We're real busy. Oh yeah, we literally hit the ground running. Yeah, and we did OSs and everything before.
We don't,
So, it was Cleveland, Oklahoma. Because it's the only closest thing to that. So we were going northwest. Me and James,
I just can
right over to Council Bluffs, it's like over the river.
Yes,
That's what it was.
yes.
I thought that.
You know,
Yeah, really briefly, that was when I was like,
like,
how do I? And then the following year, I was like, Jen, yes. Yeah. Well, you can see for a while.
except for the toothless guy that was in the library. That was about it, but yeah, it was good. But no, it was good.
Okay.
What it is that?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
She was cool, she was fine. Yes, it's free. Oh, it blows right on. So, yeah, it's just kind of, it looks like the 11th. Just, like, I kept telling her, it's like a wild horse. It's kind of random.
no one's using the code.
That's it. Just let her move.
They're so there.
All your plan is great. Slow down. Yes. Before we went, we were on the call. And literally,
I
did that on the floor. He calls, like, he's like right up. After 20 minutes, I was pretty much what he did. I was like, the group text is good. She was good.
So I was on the hill briefly, and then I went on the technical hill.
But not the 16 months, not the 16 months
I
leading.
happened to be covering my
Yes, like next summer, like a year from now, maybe?
Cool. Thanks for telling me.
Absolutely, yeah, she was great.
Good.
Also nothing at the same time. One of those moments.
That's really true. You know, that's such a great
I missed that by, so I didn't buy the undergrad, so I thought it was graduating from like one end and not graduating from like another end. It was completely different. So now like 2 years later, where it's like, yeah.
CNN next to her. I'm not sitting here.
Was there? I know, I could.
Hey Chad, turn that on.
I'm tomorrow.
It's Chad, Robert.
I saw you on the site at McCarthy. Yeah. In fact,
All right,
I said
I'll talk to you later.
to the office, I said, the sun might start right after the shot drops this week. Or whatever it was. Was it the mic?
Now I think so.
Cool. There you go. I was like, right after that. That's where the cell might start. How have you been?
I'm like in
Good, good.
but they're not here.
Well, only like 3 minutes. It's still early. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Big review.
Here we go.
I think what he was trying to say is, he was trying to qualify the Democrats hostage. If I say it later, I'll yeah.
Pull me back.
Traffic should be good by the time you leave.
I'm doing the train.
He can take it, he's fine. Where's that good?
Brunswick.
That's the one my boss used to take that and then go into Maryland. He used to live in the Blue Line. It's like first person well. So we go to Brunswick and then drive into Maryland. So he had a really big commute.
That train did more than Martinsville once for me.
Yeah. I used to know, yeah. I used to go to Thunder Grill, that bar in Union Station. One of the locals there would have some drinks before he did it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Sorry for the delay. America must always pay our bills. Period. Full stop. That has been done under Democratic presidents and Republican presidents, largely without gamesmanship, partisanship, or brinksmanship. Because the consequences of a dangerous default will be catastrophic for everyday Americans. No one should want that to happen. 3 times under the Trump administration, Democrats made sure that America would not default and that we paid our bills. Notwithstanding our strong public policy disagreements with the Trump presidency, including but not limited to the passage of the GOP tax scam, where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1% to subsidize the lifestyles of the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected, and stick the American people with $2 trillion worth of debt. In fact, in our nation's 247-year history, 25% of the nation's debt was accumulated during the Trump presidency. That's fiscal responsibility. But yet 3 times, House Democrats worked with the Trump administration without gamesmanship, partisanship, brinksmanship to make sure that America did not default and that we paid our bills. So why are things different right now? Why are House Republicans being so unreasonable and so extreme? Unfortunately, we can only really draw one conclusion as we are on the brink of default. House Republicans are determined to either extract deep, painful cuts that will hurt the health, the safety, or the well-being of everyday Americans, or crash the economy, default on our debt, and trigger a painful recession. Those are the 2 options that House Republicans see as the only viable paths forward. Not our words, Donald Trump's words. The extreme wing of the House Republican Conference's words. Matt Gaetz's words. The American people should understand that House Republicans are determined to accomplish one of 2 objectives: deep, extreme, painful cuts that will hurt the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, hurt veterans, hurt disabled children, hurt teachers, hurt Social Security recipients, hurt people who desperately need nutrition assistance, or default on our debt. And many House Republicans have made their position clear. House Republicans are determined to crash the economy because they believe it will benefit them politically. That is the only explanation for their extreme and inherently unreasonable behavior. Catherine Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. So here we are, just days away from economic catastrophe, days away from higher mortgage payments, car loans, gutted retirement accounts, days away from losing 8 million jobs. Why? Because House Republicans have decided to default on America. So let's set the record straight. 1, this is a battle between extremism and common sense. From the beginning, the White House has put forward reasonable solutions. On March 9th, the president released a budget that invests in the success of families and businesses while cutting the deficit by $3 trillion. Republicans waited until April 25th to respond with their Default on America bill. Extreme cuts to veterans' health care, to child care, to first responders, to teachers, to the hungry people in this country, all to fund payouts for polluters and for those who want to cheat on their taxes. This is not normal. This is a hostage situation. Even Matt Gaetz recognized that today. He said, Republicans don't feel like we should negotiate with our hostage. Speaker McCarthy and Patrick McHenry both admitted that avoiding default is the only concession they're willing to offer. And who has the GOP taken hostage? It's not the White House, it's not Congress, it's not Democrats, it's the American people. They want the American people to make an impossible choice. Devastating cuts or devastating default. Decimate food assistance or gut seniors' retirement savings. Pull kids out of childcare or destroy their parents' livelihoods. Cut $2 billion from veterans' health care or wipe out 8 million jobs. This is also not about debt, and it is not about spending. What's the evidence? As the leader just laid out, Republicans racked up $8 trillion in debt under Donald Trump, 1/4 of everything we owe in 4 short years. And at the same time, Republicans raised the debt ceiling 3 times, no strings attached. They don't care about spending. They care what ends up in the pockets of the wealthy and the well-connected. And when the president offered to freeze spending, they said no. Not unless you make it easier for the rich to dodge the IRS. When they had that chance this week to correct course and fund health care for our veterans, when they had a chance to help our heroes who were exposed to toxic chemicals like Agent Orange, to toxic burn pits, they canceled the vote. I do not know how they are going to go home and look at our veterans this Memorial Day. But I know this, the American people are watching, and they know House Republicans are responsible for this manufactured, very dangerous crisis. They are not going to forget. It takes a handful of members of the GOP to say enough. My message to them is this: be patriots. Put people over politics before it's too late. And with that, I yield to our chairman, Pete Aguilar.
Thank you, Whip Clark, for keeping our caucus united. House Democrats are proud to stand with Leader Jeffries and Whip Clark as they defend our values and our policy priorities. As Leader Jeffries has said time and time again, we cannot let the American economy be held hostage. Yesterday, the extreme Republican, whom Kevin McCarthy owns his speakership to, conceded what Democrats have been saying for weeks when Matt Gaetz said the quiet part out loud, that the limit, save, grow, that his colleagues support limit, save, grow, and they don't feel like they can negotiate with their hostage. That's how they feel. Negotiate with their hostage. Let's be clear, we're not the hostage here. As the whip said, the American public are the hostages here. School teachers, firefighters, our seniors, our veterans, working families across this country who could lose their jobs if we default. That's who Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy are holding hostage. And that's who House Democrats are holding the line for. Leader Jeffries.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Pete. Questions?
Thank you very much, Leader Jeffries. A few questions. One, will the Democratic caucus accept a deal on the debt if the president and the speaker are able to reach an agreement? Will Democrats accept any change in work requirements for Medicaid and SNAP? And finally, is there anything you would be willing to concede? For example, would you be for recovering unspent COVID funds?
Yeah, President Biden has already put reasonable proposals on the table. President Biden introduced the budget on March 9th. That budget will strengthen and protect Social Security, invest in an economy that works for everyday Americans, and cut the deficit by $3 trillion. In part, by making sure that the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected pay their fair share, we increase investments in the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people. Increase investments, while at the same time ending wasteful subsidies for big pharma and big oil. That's President Biden's proposal. The Republicans want to dramatically cut spending in a way that will hurt veterans, hurt disabled children, hurt older Americans, hurt teachers, hurt the American people. So we're in a divided government situation. Democrats have the White House. Democrats have the Senate. Extreme MAGA Republicans barely in control of the House. So President Biden says, we want to increase investments in the American people. You want to dramatically cut spending. Let's find common ground and freeze spending at the 2023 level. That is an inherently reasonable compromise. They have rejected it. Republicans have rejected putting revenue on the table, rejected making sure the wealthy and the well-off pay their fair share, rejected revisiting the 2017 GOP tax scam, where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthy 1%. They have rejected looking at the child tax credit, which reduced poverty in half in the United States of America. So President Biden has been very reasonable in what he has put on the table. Freeze spending, reduce the deficit by $1.1 trillion on top of the $1.7 trillion deficit reduction that he's already accomplished. And through the appropriations process, let's work together to figure out how we can do more to both invest in the American people and deal with our financial situation into the future. That's reasonable. That's reasonable.
Thank you. Good afternoon. How do you sell this to your caucus, depending on what the deal is, when you say, okay, freeze things at 2022 levels?
2023 levels.
2023 levels. Freeze things at, so how do you sell this to your caucus if you say freeze this at 2023 levels? Yet some might say, well, that is a cut. You know, sometimes this is in the eye of the beholder. A change in the rate of growth when you're expecting it to go up at a certain rate could be interpreted as a cut. Is that going to be a problem on your side of the aisle?
What I'm saying is that it's reasonable for all sides to consider a common ground, middle of the road position, which is to freeze spending at the 2023 level. That is not an extreme position, which is what the Republicans hold. It's not everything that Democrats want. but it is a middle ground position, which President Biden has offered to House Republicans, and they have rejected it because they are only interested in taking hostages or crashing the American economy. Catherine?
Mr. Leader, do you have regrets that your party did not raise the debt ceiling when it was in the majority?
It's not my understanding that the challenge was not addressing the debt ceiling because Democrats refused to do it. But it's my understanding that Republicans in the Senate were unwilling to discuss this issue last December, perhaps because they wanted to set up a hostage-taking situation.
Leader Jeffries, where do you stand on the 14th Amendment?
Well, I think that President Biden has indicated that he believes he may have the power under the 14th Amendment to take this step if we are hurtling toward a dangerous default, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Is there still a version of permitting reform that can work as part of this process?
That's unclear. I think we have to find common ground around the spending issue, which has been at the center of the unreasonable demands that Republicans have articulated, and President Biden has indicated a willingness to freeze spending. That is reasonable, and that's trying to establish some common ground with the other side of the aisle, which they've rejected because apparently they are determined to default on our debt and to crash the U.S. economy. I want to yield to Catherine to make an announcement.
We just want to let you all know that we have the full Democratic caucus on the discharge petition, all 213, which is another sign of the unity that we have. And we know who we're fighting for. It's the American people. And that's what continues to drive our work. And what we are seeing here is a GOP caucus that has become extreme and has decided that they are working for the wealthy and the well-connected at the expense of every other American. And we only have to look ahead to see what their plans are for the month of June, which is doubling down on the tax scam of 2017. So let's be clear what this exercise is. They are willing to default the full faith and credit of the United States, which we have never done before. We know what a dangerous calamity this will be for American families, but we don't even know the type of global recession that this could set off. And while they are talking about fiscal responsibility, they're already planning to support further tax cuts for the wealthy. This is where the GOP is. This is why it is so dangerous and so much at stake. And the difference between the unity of the Democratic Party is that for our differences in ideology and approaches, we have the shared value of putting Americans' security first. And too many on the other side either are advocating for default because they believe it's good politics to ruin our economy and make Americans foot the bill, and too many others are complicit in their silence.
I want to thank Whip Clark for the unity of the Democratic caucus. Having 213 signatures means we're 5 signatures away. And so for our Republican colleagues who give interviews and go back home and talk about how they want to work together and talk about how they're not extreme like Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she doesn't speak for them, this is their opportunity. They can either go home and honor our veterans, or they can lend their signatures to the discharge petition, end this, work with us, and avoid catastrophe. It seems pretty simple.
On the discharge petition, pretty much every Republican has said publicly that they oppose it, but have any of you heard from them, maybe privately, that they'd be willing to maybe be pressed to cross the aisle and join you?
Well, the stakes are now crystal clear. House Democrats have provided a vehicle to end this reckless and dangerous default crisis and avoid the economy crashing. Moderate Republicans have said they want to avoid a dangerous default, find common ground with Democrats, and avoid a job killing recession. It's now time for House Republicans to break with the extreme wing of their party and join House Democrats to put an end to the default crisis. The failure of 5 House Republicans to do so will simply reinforce the point that at the end of the day, what they really want is for America to default. House Republicans have the opportunity to prove that that is not the case. And let's see what happens on the floor this afternoon or tomorrow.
Have you spoken with the White House negotiators today after their meeting that just wrapped up? And is there any progress that you can report, any new offers from either side?
I have not had the opportunity to speak to the designees of the White House today or anyone from the White House this afternoon, but I do look forward to having a conversation with them. One of the things that I will continue to communicate to the White House is that it's not clear to me that the extreme MAGA Republicans in the House are having these discussions in good faith. It does appear increasingly likely that House Republicans want a dangerous default, they want to crash the economy, and they want to trigger a job-killing recession. It's my hope that 5 Republicans from New York or California or other moderate districts throughout the country can prove me wrong, prove us wrong, and they now have an opportunity to do so, just 5, by signing a discharge petition that can end this madness right now.
Last question. We've heard from Speaker McCarthy a lot. I believe he's spoken to us a dozen times in the last, since Monday. I'm wondering if you think it would be helpful at all if we heard directly from President Biden more in these negotiations.
Well, the president spoke earlier today, and I think that was appropriate that he spoke on the 1-year anniversary of the tragic mass shooting and the killing of precious young children in Uvalde. It's my expectation that if Republicans continue to play games with the American economy, threaten default, and drive us into a very dangerous situation, that we'll begin to hear from the Biden administration, if not the president himself. I have full confidence in the goodness of President Biden, who wants to find a resolution that protects everyday Americans and is engaging in good faith discussions to try to arrive at that conclusion. But the challenge that the American people face is that it's not clear the extreme MAGA Republicans are interested in finding common ground at the end of the day, because they have rejected every single reasonable proposal that the Biden administration has put on the table, which leads many of us to draw the conclusion that at the end of the day, what the House Republicans want is a dangerous default. They want to crash the economy. They want to trigger a job-killing recession because they believe that it will improve their electoral prospects for the insurrection in chief, who's going to be their nominee in November of 2024. Paul, last question.
Do you follow off of that then? Do you think that this White House has been a bit naive in not understanding how this game is being played? They're operating under the don't negotiate in the press world of negotiations, and McCarthy can't stop talking to the press, and his McHenry and Graves can't stop talking to us. All they do is negotiate through the press. And do you feel like they've been naive in not understanding what you're saying you're going to tell them later today?
Well, the more that House Republicans talk, the more information and insight the American people have into their true motives, which is that they are engaged in a hostage-taking situation. The hostage is the American economy and everyday Americans, and apparently, at the end of the day, they're willing to shoot the hostage. That's our view as House Democrats. I think the president, who worked closely, side by side, in this institution with the extreme MAGA Republicans and understand what they're all about and who's driving this majority. And the White House and President Biden do have a different set of responsibilities, which is to try their hardest in good faith to find common ground. That's what the president has been trying to do. But what the last few days, I believe, have revealed is that even reasonable things that have been put on the table, like a spending freeze, have been rejected because the extreme MAGA Republicans, as Donald Trump indicated, are either trying to extract deep, painful cuts that are not sustainable and that there are not Democratic votes to support in the House of Representatives, or crash the U.S. economy. Thank you.
Sure, that was actually work.